If you haven't seen Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, and Thor, watch them. It's better for you. All Marvel movies are interconnected, so you must watch them to understand how the events are connected and maintain continuity. Let's get started. The story begins in the year 1944 in Norway, during the days of the Second World War, and we see that a Nazi army leader is searching for a cube called the Tesseract, because this cube is very powerful, and they believe they can make destructive weapons from it. At the end of the summary, they have more to say, maintain their spirit despite being separated, and the rest is uncertain. The leader then attacks a temple, kills the guards, and steals the Tesseract. After a long search, the leader known as Red Skull or the Red Genie claims to be a follower. Hydra, a Nazi army division, conducted research and produced unusual weapons. Red Skull remains its leader, and we will see why Red Skull is called Red Skull, why his name is Red Skull, why the Red Genie. You will recognize it as the Red Genie, not another red thing. Meanwhile, in New York, a skinny and weak young man named Steve Rogers, who loves his country deeply, is introduced. Despite his great love for his country, he is repeatedly rejected from enlisting in the American Army due to his weakness. This is a revolution. Uncle was involved, and Steve once watched an army film with a group of kids. They sit and shout and scream and laugh, and they sit and mock him, and Steve tells them to shut up, so they threaten him with prison and beat him. But Steve keeps resisting. I want to remain a hero, and the son of the observatory will also remain a hero, not a rebellious one. You understand me this time. After that, Steve's friend, who's called Bucky, comes down there and saves the boys. Then they go to the army party because Bucky is traveling the next day and finds that there is Howard Stark and presents one of Howard Stark's inventions. He is the father of Iron Man. I won't tell you to watch the Iron Man summary despite your situation. I won't say that. He finds Dr. Abraham, who notices his love for the army and asks him, "Do you want to kill Nazis?" He tells him, "Yes, brother." He tells him, "Have you heard the question? Don't you get stubborn with your mother's spirit?" He expresses his desire to protect his country without killing and asks for help joining the army. The sword finally became a soldier as he dreamed, and we see that his sorrow is greater than himself. After that, we go to the headquarters of Hydra, and we see Red Skull with Dr. Zola, who is responsible for the inventions there. And they are making a weapon using the power of the Tesseract cube. Then we return to the American Army, and we get to know Peggy Carter, the leader in the American Army, Peggy Carter. She is a hot American woman. And we meet her from Natasha, not from Jean nor from Peggy. After that, Steve starts training, and we see the commander saying that he will make him a worthy soldier, and the commander's conducting tests to see if he is capable. The grenade is fake. After seeing their reactions, with Steve jumping on it to shield his colleague, he visits him later that night. Dr. Abraham chose him to be the extraordinary soldier, and his choices are his own, God willing. Among all the soldiers, I didn't find a coward. He remains the one who brings the watch, or these shacks. We will return to Hydra's headquarters again, smell the coming ones, and see Red Skull. Woshe represents a red cluster, explaining why he is called Red Skull, a result of the experiments. Woshe al-Bashri represents a musket. Actually, the elephant in this time had a high-quality musket. And after a while, we turn the Ammonite and return to New York and see Steve speaking Arabic with Peggy. He's not used to talking to good girls like her, similar to how I'm a very good boy in theory. So he doesn't know how to communicate with her. He informs her that this is his longest conversation ever with anyone. Meaning, my son, they would arrive at the place, and she would go say a secret word to the shopkeeper there, or the worker. They would distance themselves. And we would see that behind this shop, there is a secret laboratory. Steve undergoes the super soldier experiment, supervised by Howard Stark, Dr. Ibrahim, and the American Army. He is injected with the super soldier serum and emerges from the device with enhanced physical attributes. The narrator humorously remarks that they would love a device like that to improve their own physique. A Nazi soldier would infiltrate the group, blow up the facility, and steal the super soldier serum used on Steve. Dr. Ibrahim would be killed in the process. What a waste, and he is the only one who knows how to make it. In a world where Steve Rogers is the last super soldier, he chases and confronts a man, causing the final serum to break. The story takes a twist when the man is revealed to be one of Steve's loved ones. Before the American Army celebrates him, he remains and responds like this, and we return here to the Nazi Army. Red Skull unveils the device harnessing the Tesseract's power, but fights his own leader to maintain his dominance. He remains with Hydra, separate from the army, showcasing the weapon's devastating capabilities, surpassing a nuclear bomb. Back in America, the army continues to use Steve solely for propaganda purposes. Like a cartoon character, he stands on stage, promoting the American Army as Captain America. One day, he learns that the Nazis are holding a group of soldiers, including Bucky, hostage. Steve insists on going to rescue them. Howard Stark flies him there, and Steve jumps from the plane, and he infiltrates the place. He frees them from the Nazis, and a small battle ensues between him and the Nazi army, and they see the power of the weapon. He descends with a parachute and infiltrates them. Red Skull confronts Captain America, but they escape and return to the American camps with all the prisoners. Captain America withdraws from the army and refuses to appear in the promotional show again, stating he's not a monkey. Howard Stark makes a shield for Steve from a material called vibranium. I don't know what this name is, and you told me Stark will make it in the upcoming movies. I won't tell you. Go watch, that's it, still coming, wait and watch. Actually, press the subscribe button and share and keep watching and wait for what's coming. And Howard tells Steve that this is the strongest material in the world, stronger than steel, and this material. Just a thought. The movie features a guy who claims he'll make a heroine out of vibranium, but it's not found in reality, just in his love for his dad. This is you? You've actually announced yourself, Marvel? Twice. Vibranium and adamantium? Okay, you're going to tell me this vibranium is still visible. Where is this adamantium? Let alone tell you. After that, he tries the shield and hits it with fire, turning it into something like glowing beans. No matter how much he strikes the shield, it drives him crazy and nauseous. Steve and his group go on many missions, making him a hero to the American army and the public. As Ibrahim, may God have mercy on him, was burning the tube under his head, he wanted it. And sometimes Captain America attacks with a huge force on the lazy army. And they inform them that they had crossed the line. A destructive robot exists in the past. But Steve knows that the thousands in Mecca are individuals who work on the line. But they were bigger. Dr. Zola informed them that the army for the suspected Egyptian had returned. They were making a second attack on the Nazi army. Steve, the leader, briefly informed the team about what's next. He is tortured and the interrogation begins. But Steve tells him that you can endure and he will kill him. But he will let American soldiers in and there will be a battle, and Ward Skull will flee on his plane. But Steve gets in a car with Biggie Wart, and Steve wants to go to the plane, and Biggie kisses him before he leaves. As an explanation for her love for him, why is everyone kissing and I find myself like her lover? Why is it so? God has a miracle in it. God has something in it. Always the hero before he goes sacrifices himself. Or does something important. The heroine kisses him. You stay like this because I haven't done anything important in my life. The crucial part is that he gains power from the kiss, enters the plane, and engages in a battle where they strike each other. But Steve shoots his shield at the controls, you son of a fool. And Red Skull grabs the controls and we see that he can't let go because the controls are very strong. So when Red Skull holds on, a door like this opens to space and he gets sucked into it. The Tesseract's power lies in its ability to transport anything from one place to another in the world, but its full capabilities remain unclear. But we'll find out later, so keep following along. Steve tries to return with the plane. That was just a waste, and the crash is useless. He returns to the city because the plane has a missile. No, not Jane or Natasha, it is a missile. Who will distinguish this? He calls Peggy, and he has her number. Howard's call was recorded her number on the mobile in the plane. I don't understand it, honestly. And he talks to her and tells her that he loves her for the last time. He falls into the ocean, and Peggy cries for him. We all cry, but I cry for Peggy, not Captain America. Captain America remains a symbol of heroism and sacrifice in the American street. Howard Stark will find the Tesseract, will come to tell me what this Tesseract is, and who is Howard Stark will tell you, you did not Tesseract on the summaries that remained. You remained, you what? Then we see Steve opening his eyes. But honestly, not on the surface of his land, he is on the surface of a bed. The important thing is that he finds himself in a hospital. During a curling game broadcast, a nurse enters and expresses suspicion about the location, stating he has attended this old game before. The nurse senses danger as Haber behaves aggressively like a bull. Look, summary uncle, I'm tired of this. I keep saying go watch, and I swear I won't say it again just to get to the one who's watching. And the nurse feels such danger. Haber acts like a bull or something. And Steve Scenes flips in himself. The important thing is if you don't know who's a bull, go watch a summary of a bull. You've been wasting your mother's time as long as you haven't differentiated. He asks for forces but discovers that Steve is actually Johnny Rogers, or Steve Scenes, who is a joke. He exposes the guard and realizes the situation is a decor. He escapes and finds himself in the future before coming to him. Nick Fury, who will see the summary that you didn't go to watch the summaries that you didn't know. The important thing is your uncle, Nick Fury. He tells him that he was frozen in the snow for 70 years, and they are in the year of the fin and spread out and did not die because he is his own burner. And after he hands him over, he comes to him again and tells him that the world is in danger. and we need your help, but that's it. The story is over. And wait for a summary of the movie tomorrow, God willing. I mean, after this video does not drop the video tomorrow, God willing, you will find the movie dropped because all the heroes will be gathered, and set your alarm for early morning. Please watch the videos you missed, as I won't be able to cover everything. Is that too much to ask? The most important thing is that Natasha will remain? The most important thing is Jean coming? Is something big coming? No. Is Biggie coming? I've booked the mission Natasha J, Natasha J, Natasha J, thank God. The story continues after 2 years of events in the Dawn movie. We'll see if Steve, who's Captain America, continued to work in the S.H.I.E.L.D. organization, and we get to know a person named Sam Wilson. And what's left of the newspapers. Steve understood the spirit by the spirit, and we see Steve going on a mission. Follow S.H.I.E.L.D. with Natasha. Yes, Natasha is illuminated, and a person named Rumlow. And they understand that the mission is about them liberating a family on a ship. This family is a ship's crew, not just a single family. After a light battle and mission completion, Natasha takes unauthorized data. At S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, Steve and Nick Fury inquire about the data, and Fury reveals that S.H.I.E.L.D. is developing a weapon to counter any threat to Earth. Like what happened in the Avengers movie. If you didn't miss it, what does that mean to you? And the data that Natasha took will help them in their project to create a weapon. Then Steve goes to a museum dedicated to the heroes who fought for America in the war. He sees memories of his friend Bucky and his girlfriend, and feels sad thinking about them. Peggy comes in his dream, and he goes to her house to see her and talk to her. It's uncertain if she will keep coming when unable to. Peggy, the president, is in charge tonight. The crucial thing is for him to talk to her. She would occasionally ask him, "Who are you, my son? Whose son? What, Mama? I was just watching him a while ago, and we'll see later." Nick Fury, and he's trying to open the extended data, but it just won't open. So he goes to the senior official of Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division and asks him to delay the project a bit. Then he gets in his car, and we see that there's an assassination attempt on him by people like the police and designers trying to follow him. But his car is somewhat fortified, and there's a big action scene, and they repel him. A mysterious assailant attempts to kill Nick Fury, but he manages to escape. We see Steve returning home, hearing a noise in his apartment. He enters cautiously, only to find that it's Nick Fury trying to give him a message. The breach is complete, you understand the breach, and an attack occurs on Steve's apartment. Suddenly, Nick Fury is injured, but Steve's hand. The weapon's data says, "Don't trust anyone," and he sees the person who made the attack and expels him. And we see that he is very fast and aims at the shield. But he holds the shield, and we see that he has multiple shields like this, and he runs away, and we see Nick Fury's in the hospital, and his condition is very difficult. But he distinguishes life, and he dies, God willing, a martyr. And we see afterwards, Steve, a member of Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division, is questioned by the president about why he is in the organization and if Nick Fury told him before his death. Steve responds, saying he doesn't know. "I don't know myself. Go ask his upbringing." He is riding Captain America's elevator with Rumlow, a soldier who was with them on a mission, along with a few other soldiers, as they enter and exit the elevator. One person suddenly draws a weapon and attempts to attack Steve in a failed assassination attempt. Thankfully, Steve remains unharmed. He hits all of them and stops the elevator on the floor and stands up from him, and you are struggling and leaving my mind with you. By the way, the fight scene in this solid scene is very well done. And a plane attacks him, trying to kill him. But he escapes. He considers him a criminal, Steve, and wanted for justice. Do you understand him? And then he goes to Natasha and reassures her. Of course, Natasha is very trustworthy, and they went to a place to open this flash drive that has the data, and there will be some agents hiding in the place. So they pretend that they are engaged like this, and they kiss each other. Steve tells her this is the last time, but there is a middle-aged woman, Mrs. Peggy, with her. They go to the weapons depot they learned about from the flash drive. Upon arrival, they discover that the one in control is a factory owner. Because Dr. Zola, who was working with Hydra, "Oh, I won't tell you the rest. Go watch the summaries. I'm done." He informs them that Hydra is still active and in existence. He attacks S.H.I.E.L.D. with a cannon trying to kill them, but they survive. Steven, Natasha, and the president of S.H.I.E.L.D. are in his house with the Winter Soldier, who killed Nick Fury. We find out his name is Walter Soldier, or the Winter Soldier. Steve and Natasha go to their friend because they trust him, and they return there to him, and they get kidnapped. An agent from S.H.I.E.L.D., who's actually a follower of Hydra, and we see Sam's weapon, which is a pair of wings, and his nickname remains. Falcon, the agent, says on his chest, "Speak!" So they throw him off the building, and then Sam comes flying and catches him, God willing, from under him and brings him up again. He informs them he's all right, but wasn't strong enough to go down to the ground. And we know that the S.H.I.E.L.D., which is a Hydra infiltrator, is a danger to them and a danger to their weapons project. And then they get in the car. But they are attacked by Winter Soldier, and we see his terrifying power. He confronts Captain America and falls, hitting his face on the mask. And we see that Winter Soldier is still Bucky, the old friend of Captain America. And after a while, Steve tells Natasha and Sam about Bucky. And he is actually from the 40s. The border situation with Hydra. We know that Hydra took her and wiped her memory and did some experiments on her. And then they took their weapon and confronted an agent who was leading them to her location. And we see that Nick Fury is still alive, not dead as you thought. Well, you think I'm Loki after all. The important thing is that they tell him about a plan and they go ahead with it and they execute it, and Captain America and Falcon are inside Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division. And he says into the mic to all the employees that Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division is compromised. And the person next to you could be a Hydra agent if you don't know, really normal. He reveals everything to them. They attempt to kill him and Nick Fury, drawing their guns on one another. Natasha, upset, shot the president with a gun. Later, Nick Fury entered the president's office, but it was too late. They launched the project. With the weapons, a battle ensues. And Steve gets on one of the planes, and with him a flash that can stop all the weapons. So Winter Soldier rides the plane and comes out to him, and a battle ensues between them, and Steve tries. They thought he was a friend in one of the days. Above, oh my friend, above. And it happens. In confrontation with the one I'm not ashamed to pronounce his mother's name, and it ends with the one I'm not ashamed to pronounce his mother's name. Sam chases the man who falls under the building, while Natasha pursues in a plane. Steve confronts Bucky, knowing how to stop the planes. Despite the confrontation, Steve shows Bucky his shield and declares, "You're my friend, I won't fight you." Bucky said, "You're my mission," after being told no, and he prefers knocking them out. But the part that Steve was in from the plane falls, and Steve drowns in the water. But we see that Bucky followed him and pulled him out of the water. And Nick Fury is there. He kills the head of Hydra and changes his identity. He goes to Europe after they think he is dead. And then we see Bucky goes to the museum and sees himself there and reads about himself. And we also see one of Hydra's scientists. He has Loki's scepter, which was with him in the Avengers movie, and he has a son and a daughter who have extraordinary powers. The son is very fast, and the daughter can move things from a distance. What's their story? All of this we will know. All of this we will know in the next episode on the Bedtime Story channel. The story begins in 1991 in one of Hydra's headquarters, and we'll see that they are thawing Bucky and using a certain book with specific words that when he hears them, he goes into a trance, and he carries out any order they give him, and he goes and carries out an assassination mission for one of the people we will know later. And he takes something from his pocket. Hydra will help in creating the rest of the super soldiers who are similar to Bucky. And we return to the present time in a city in Nigeria. The Avengers are carrying out a mission to capture Rumlow, which of course came from the events of the previous part. Not trying to watch the parts that passed. You are supposed to have returned to the subject. Stay with me first of all, you understand, and one of the films and see the important will happen between them, and between Rumlow some skirmishes, and Captain America will fight with him a little. Before his capture, he detonated explosives while surrounded by civilians. Of course, it's not okay for them to get hurt like this. But Wanda tried to help, but her help meant lifting him into the sky like this, God willing. He blew up in the building like this, understand, and all the people in it died. And this building was owned by a state that belonged to Wakanda, which is basically a non-existent state in the real world, in the Marvel world only. And we go to your Uncle Tony Stark, who is going to showcase advanced technology like this, his invention that keeps playing with it. And we go to your Uncle Tony Stark, who is going to showcase such technology, his invention that plays in reality. And when his conference is over, and he is at the elevator, one of his daughters died in the building explosion. And he tells him that he is the reason, and that they are not heroes, and that they are the reason for his daughter's death. All this talk makes his conscience weigh on him, and he feels guilty as his conscience draws nearer. Then, the foreign minister gathered the Avengers and told them that they are supposed to abide by an agreement called the Sokovia Accords, which stipulates that the Avengers should be under the control of the state, because every time they fight, many people get hurt and die because of them. The Avengers divide into two factions, one supporting the agreement and the other opposing it. Then we go to someone in his house, and a person named Zemo passes by him, and we understand that the owner of this house is one of the former Hydra agents. And Zemo kills him and takes the book that contains the words that make the remaining mind, and Hydra used it in 1991. And we go to his conference in Wakanda, and the king of Wakanda is present at this conference. Who is the king? Wakanda, whose name is T'Chaka, and his son and heir, who will be the king after him, whose name is T'Challa. Amazing names, really. I don't know where these names came from, not Ahmed, Mohammed, Omar, or Hussein. None of them have these names, T'Chaka and T'Challa. But a terrorist bombing operation occurs. You see a catastrophic terrorist bombing operation, and the king dies in it. And it comes out in the news that the person who caused the explosion was Bucky. What are you doing, Bucky? Sorry, you're still doing this. You're a troublemaker in your desires. Bucky's in Bucharest when Captain America visits him, assuring him that he knows Bucky is innocent. At the same time, special forces enter the building to capture Bucky from his hideout. But he escapes and leaves behind a strange person attacking him, whose name is Black Panther. And a confrontation occurs between Black Panther, Captain America, and Bucky until they are arrested. And it is discovered that Black Panther is essentially T'Challa. He is the heir to Wakanda and is considered the remaining king after his father's death. So why is he still so strong? And it is said that instead of wearing it, he is wearing it. All of this will be known in the Black Panther summary that is coming in a few days. So stay tuned, keep following, and do what? Subscribe like this and ring the important bell after they are arrested. You discover that Uncle Gizmo denies the existence of the Doctor, who's essentially supposed to be the Doctor who realizes with Bakey. The blonde from the book stays with him, manipulating his mind until Bakey goes mad and lashes out. Nobody remains capable of anything until he appears on the surface and steals a plane. But my beloved Captain America tries to stop him until a plane falls in the water. But Steve takes Bakey and hides him somewhere, and prefers to imprison him there so that no one finds him. And after that, we find Bakey speaking very normally. Your Uncle Steve is suspicious of Bakey's coldness, which he believes is to prove superiority. There's nothing Bakey tells Steve. Steve asks for Bakey's name, mentioning Uncle Sarah, and says they will bury Bakey. We were with each other in the cache for a while in the cache, right? But he tells him everything that happened and tells him that he is not a Winter Soldier. No, they were a group and tried to turn against Hydra and freeze them, and there are many of them frozen till now. Then your Uncle Tony Stark decides, as long as Steve is not willing to give up, I have to force him to stay. And he decides that he will be a team and go to a small country called Peter Barker and Tony. He saw him on the net and discovered his personality, which he saw on the net and discovered his personality and taught him instead, and included him in the Avengers, which essentially becomes Spider-Man. But Spider-Man to people is a culture like the ordinary Egyptian people, and I am also one of them. They say Spider-Man. At the same time, Captain America freezes you, and at the same time, Captain America freezes for a second. And he is Ant-Man, which we made an old video, but we made it a summary. I mean, go watch it. Distic Copyright was going to sue us, but we have nothing, and it will happen. The confrontation between Captain America's team and Tony Stark's team and Iron Man's team consists of War Machine, Black Widow, and Black Panther in the team, and Vision. And Captain America's team consists of Falcon, Ant-Man, Wanda, and Hawkeye. Where did Wanda come from? Wanda? She was imprisoned with her Uncle Vision somewhere, right? She's not imprisoned. Your Uncle Tony Stark will shut down this place to prevent her from doing anything, protecting her alongside your uncle. Your Uncle Quicksilver will free her from here. Your Uncle Bucky and Captain America have a big face-off with the family. It ends with them escaping with her, who was tranquilized by Max Cotinta. Your Uncle Black Panther also agrees to confront the whole family. What will happen next? What will Black Panther become? What remains of your Uncle Black Panther? He will bring them. But your Aunt Natasha is chasing them. What should I do now that they have escaped like this? And you let them escape by plane, and now it remains a mystery to them. War Machine is attempting to catch the plane, carrying Captain America and Bucky, as she aided them earlier. But your Uncle Falcon is behind the sniper, so your Uncle Tony Stark tells Vision that he is the one to hit Falcon. The student arrives as War Machine, but his replacement malfunctions and he falls, becoming paralyzed. Captain America's team is imprisoned, and Tony Stark learns that Bucky is alive and Zemo, a Hydra follower, orchestrated the explosion. The deceased king goes to prison, discovers Captain America's whereabouts, and sets out to assist them, with Black Panther tracking his movements. When he hears Branzimo's voice, who is Zemo, he confesses to killing the others and identifies himself as the Winter Soldier. They are all still frozen, and he brought them here for a purpose, and here he is playing a video. In 1991, Tony Stark discovered that his parents' killers are still alive. Despite knowing that Bucky was involved, Tony still wants to kill him to avenge his father, mother, and Uncle Tony. Captain America realizes Bucky is innocent and was under Hydra's control, not acting of his own free will. A confrontation erupts between the three, escalating into a physical altercation with each one landing blows on the others. Your Uncle Bucky and your Uncle Captain America are on your Uncle Tony Stark. You understand what I'm saying, bro? Anyway, this confrontation ends with Tony Stark cutting off Bucky's arm. It's not his real arm, but his metal one, and Captain America destroys his replacement. Iron Man was determined to kill him, and then Iron Man said, that the arm you have remains your arm. Ah, Booya, you don't deserve it. He'll leave Fudgy Kumjay's degree alone if you let him sabotage Lesh. This is my father's thing, and I'm free to do as I please with it. And then we'll see outside Black Panther after he heard all this and goes to Brazil. But he doesn't kill him, and tells him that he won't act like them and that he will let anger and revenge if they can control him. Either Uncle kills him and we're done, or Uncle from his mother and Uncle from Brazil are scared and we understand. Why did he do all this? Because when they were in Sofia, in my event that happened in the Edge of Tomorrow movie, all of them died because of the explosion that happened. And he decided that they, and what he doesn't choose for himself because he of course can't afford them, he decided that they let them fall into each other and surrender his weapon to the authorities. And Captain America tells him that they will be there when any danger happens, and they will help, no matter what they have to isolate themselves. He gives him a mobile phone to stay in touch, telling him to call whenever he needs him. This coincides with Captain America's imprisonment and the release of the rest of the imprisoned team. In the movie's final scene, Bucky visits Black Panther and freezes himself until a solution is found to control his actions. This episode begins with General Ross, and if you don't remember who he is the villain from the first part, but we see him now after he has changed and nominated himself for the American presidential elections. And of course, I don't need to tell you that he won it and remained the president of America, even though he is originally a criminal and was a villain before becoming the American president. All the honors were given in his longtime sport where he competed as a fighter. But the movie was not different from reality. In the movie, America was a criminal. In reality, it was a criminal too, regardless of what we mean. The point is far from all this. On television, he sees the president stating that he killed him using Hulk forever and blames him for the loss of his daughter. This makes him reflect and evolve from his former self. And it's her time from 5 months ahead, specifically in Mexico with the new Captain America who is Falcon or Sam. After Steve Rogers handed him the shield in Endgame, if you remember. The crucial point is that Sam, dispatched from Japan, is on a retrieval mission directly overseen by the president himself. At that time, Sam attacks the criminals from the sky, hitting them with his wings and Captain America's shield. We notice that Falcon's suit has evolved now that the state has gifted him with a shield. The important thing is after a lot of hitting, Sam pursues the leader of the terrorist group Garden Shield, who turns to confront Sam and prevent him from interfering with Garden's plans. While Sam is hitting and hitting, he is able to defeat him and the support is coming to arrest the criminal, and they are able to retrieve the box before they run away with it with help. One of them is named Joaquin, and this is a resemblance, so it was a long time ago. The important thing is that unfortunately, Garden runs away before they expose him. Sam takes Joaquin to his coach, original gangster who played the role of an angel, to teach Joaquin the art of fighting. He's very famous and retired afterwards. The Federation experimented on him, leaving him paralyzed and sold his entire life, as depicted in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. After training, Sam receives a call from Ross. In case original gangster becomes angry and targets Sam for working with Ross, Sam will follow him to find out the reason for his anger, as he has been caught. This is the real man. The United States president tried to imprison original gangster at a young age and ruin his career. Original gangster is furious at the government, but Sam informs him that Ross is not a current threat, as Ross contacted him, his lawyer, to invite him to a White House party. Sam insists that original gangster must come with them. Ross agrees, and original gangster, his lawyer, and Sam arrive at the White House in Ross's office, where Ross is receiving Sam. Thank him for his work in getting the box back, and he tells him that he brought the grenade because Sam wanted to build a new Avengers team. So Sam asks him, "Avengers, what is this strange name? Aren't you aware that they all either died or retired?" When the British government took over the Eye of Agamotto in the American Captain's Civil War, which had passed, the disappearance of the original Avengers seemed to be caused by it, but crucially, Sam initially refused, as the Avengers would remain under Ross's control as long as he's in charge. At the party, Ross tells Sam that the returning soldiers would obey orders, like Sam did. Sam initially refuses, but is given time to think about it. He then leaves the party and meets Japanese Prime Minister Yuzaki, who thanks him. Will they be scared after seeing the power of the conferences where Ross explains what the box they are opening is? If they imagine themselves as dragons while retrieving it? The world is simple. In the movie Eternals, a device emerges in the Indian Ocean, threatening to destroy the planet. Even if the Eternals save the situation, it's important that every country in the world race to discover this creature. After much research, they discovered a very strong metal called adamantium, stronger even than vibranium. And the first country to claim a share of this metal was Japan. In the game that the world turned upside down, this is the first summary, but thank God I returned safely thanks to Sam and Kukin. And during Bruce's help, Amal praises Sam and Kukin. She invites her helper. Every country in the world agreed to form a covenant, stating that they would collectively gather adamantium and use it for good, rather than any one country monopolizing it for themselves. Of course, you're not concerned about the adamantium metal that was originally embedded in Wolverine's body, which is in his claws. The crucial talk was cut short. Oogie's hourglass is turning. Jay, armed with a missile, is attacking security, causing chaos. I met with the heads due to his unclear intentions from the start. From his side, he agreed that he would go to the White House to kill him, not more or less. The important thing is that Sam's hourglass is about to turn. The murder will happen with Oogie during the meeting. The situation is devolving into a professional nightmare, with every leader clinging to their position. Ayuzaki, Oogie, and 3 others plan to kill the heads, who respond with, "Okay, peace be upon you." The son of the slave woman remained, and some are trying to help your brother after swearing and seeing Oogie. And he can deceive him into surrendering himself, because Oogie is usually a foundation and wanted to come to the heads but not less active. The important thing is that Oogie surrenders himself. Sam helped her to go to the heads to deceive him that Oogie was not in his promise when he attacked the heads. A person unintentionally controls something and asks for help from superiors. They sarcastically compare him to Steve Rogers, saying he won't succeed without putting in the effort. Despite being discouraged, he persists.
He says
he controls Oogie's fate by death. Sam will visit him to ask why he did this. Oogie's effort will provide an explanation, that he was my advocate and by God, and that he was once, he himself will do it again, when he tried to kill the president, and if Sam really wants to help him, he must go and never return again, so as not to be shocked by the president. While Sam was returning in the car, his watch appears to be a grenade, and he fires at Sam to kill him, and then the whole car explodes with him inside. But since Sam is a hero, nothing happens to him. So he gets into a long fight with Jardin. While we know that when the buyer doesn't know what he's buying, Sam intervened and asked Jardin if he would kill him, offering to double an important guarantee after a long fight. Sam then let Jardin drown him and spent hours with his phone ringing. The unknown buyer rewarded Sam for taking the mobile and telling his brothers about it, while also making a promise to him. The identity of the speaker making this promise is not specified. After some research, they discover he is in a military base and prison called Eco 1, from which no one returns. Sam declares he's there, and his favorite agent follows him, wearing his shirt and carrying his bag, as he goes to Eco 1 and surrenders himself. The prison is empty, with no prisoners or Bilikosh present. Biliko is in his office, which looks strange with items hanging on the wall. Soldiers undergo experiments that cause them to react to a specific song, activating their devices for a short time. It's like Zuenta for Google. When he used to say a specific sentence, he used to say he must do orders or something like that, which was important during his time. What Sam and Wakoken in the lab are afraid of is the villain, and his name is Samuel Stardust Shaif. I said his name right, or just I said Samuel. The key point is that he informs Sam his head will be shaved for a year in the lab to use his hair for experiments. He forces Sam to participate in experiments until the laser beam melts his brain from overuse. And in fact, Ross wasn't taking a step without consulting him. And even though Ross knew that Oogie had no sin, they still sentenced him to death. Samuel is trying to convince Sam that Ross is a good person bringing justice. However, Sam wants to attack Ross anyway, so Samuel orders the mind-controlled soldiers to attack Sam and Joaquin until they flee. After a long, intense fight with strikes exchanged, Batiji at that moment, the president's assistant, convinced of Sam's correctness and a mistake in Ross, assists Sam and Joaquin. They were supposed to escape, but when they left Echo for Bilowa, the army awaited them due to Ross's personal orders to arrest Sam and Joaquin. But once the song works, the soldiers start to fire at them to kill them. But Sam, Joaquin, and the assistant manage to escape. At that time, Ross goes to Japan to try to get Japan to agree to share adamantium with everyone. But they refuse because of the problems in America, so Ross tells them, okay. Then, in front of them, he orders his army to sell ships and planes to the workers and take over the place completely. Because as long as there is one country that wants to monopolize adamantium, this country will be America. I think of petroleum, a new need for it. Sam goes to investigate with Jordan, who tells him that he is Sam, and challenges him with Bruce Banner's blood. But on the contrary, he expected Ma Bakash to resemble some strong personalities, while on the contrary, he remained Zaki, and his mind remained a calculating machine, or considered calculating machines. When Ross witnessed this scene, he regrettably increased the dose slightly to maintain control over the machine. He makes devices and weapons for the state. He promised to free him from prison if he became president. But you always know Samuel, and after that, Ross gave him the bitter pill. So Samuel said, oh, damn America, and decided this and that, by God. No matter that he decided to expose his greed by showing his relationship with Japan. Due to the ongoing pressure, he will become a villain again, facing eternal hatred from everyone, including his daughter. His hourglass and laughter flow on the Indian Ocean, before his time initiates a United States-Japan war. Her clock was talking to the president for a while, and after a while, the pressure made him realize that the bride was basically dying, and the groom was going to stand like a man, so her clock was used to perform tests on you. Indeed, he was able to give her pills that would keep her alive as long as he was taking these pills. Her head would turn into a Russian. He was not able to think that he would release Samuel, because if he decided to stop producing these pills, Russia would die completely. He must live and achieve glory to change his image. So his daughter, who gradually cut ties with him, sees him differently and reconnects with him. There are rumors of 2 American planes planning to strike the Japanese castle, according to talks about human development. The people controlling the 2 countries are starting a war between them. America assisted our brothers in getting behind the 2 planes to stop them. On the other hand, Japan started to launch rockets, so Captain America and your brothers are trying to prevent the planes for a while and catch up with the Japanese rockets for a while. But during all this, we see a lot of pressure on him and his heartbeats start to increase. Except that Samo, who violated the rules and was doing something that annoyed him, was about to give in to his anger. I mean, he was controlling his nerves until the last moment, and his assistant tells him that the president is calling and hands him the mobile to fix the situation. Following the violence, an enraged Samo was screaming. While Sam was in the hospital due to Hoken's injuries, his watch was still ticking. The hospital staff approached Sam and they conversed. Surprised by Sam's emotions, he feels the responsibility is too great and that he's not taking the soldier's role seriously, like Baki or Captain America. He considers this a failure in his first mission, and indeed it is. But at the present time, he offers some human consolation, and the talk is not, he eats his life basically, and leaves it and walks. The heads. It would be a gathering of the heads of Japan, India, and France to talk about what happened, while we see Sam sitting in a garden smelling some air. But at the present time, Samuel comes to him, who acts like a stockbroker, and tells him that he wants to surrender himself, and that he is actually in a trap and is no longer insolvent. She will attempt to understand the situation and meet with the Russians, who will face tough questioning and pressure from her, escalating the tension indefinitely. Samuel's arrest will shock her and expose the Russians to everyone. During her heated meeting, they will hear his voice. They will run on the Russians to hide their faces from the White House. So her meeting with the Russians will be tense, and they will be stubborn with them in the hope that he will tell them to calm down, you son of a bitch, calm down. They are essentially designed to enter the White House. And as soon as Samuel tries to say that your daughter will disgrace you, Russians, he can't hold himself back, and her meeting turns into a red line. He was about to grind their heads and guards and turn them into dough, essentially. But Captain America, who is Sam DeLuca, would arrive and start, and then a big battle would take place between them. The problem is that every time Sam tries to calm things down, the army comes and hits him more, hurts him more, and leaves Sam wearing all this armor. And of course, no one is able to stop Red Hulk to the point that he completely destroys the White House. God willing, and with your support, Sam's suffering to the point where he's clutching his head like a tomato. But at the last moment, Sam thinks of his daughter and realizes he must let go in order to change for the better. Thinking of his daughter calms him down, reverting him back to Ross before being taken to the hospital, during which we see that he has taken innocence, after it has been proven that he was not fundamentally at fault. Unfortunately, Ross is imprisoned for what he did in prison, which was imprisoned in the Avengers before that, if you think about it. During a visit to Samuel Ross, we see that Samuel was putting a collective beam in the capsules he originally gave to increase his anger outbursts. As a result, Ross must be incarcerated for a substantial period until he can demonstrate complete self-control. In the final scene, Ross's daughter visits him in prison, telling him she forgives him and sees him as a hero, despite his actions. The film is excellent, and though the story shared was unimportant, it was quite engaging. With that, the tale concludes.